Hey, Wastelanders, how's it going? Gary is a man amongst men, a being who requires no introduction, and y'all voted for this run. We ran Vance because he won out of the leader units and faction warriors. Heck, he got the best item out of everybody. But Gary is on the scene because you guys wanted it, so you're gonna get it. It should be pretty easy to set the scene, but before we get to that, let's take a peek at Gary's gear, special allocation, and tag skills. We're taking everything that each Gary uses because we are the Gary. Now, I did console command in a scoped 44 Magnum since it's a Fallout 3 weapon, but we won't start with any ammo for it. I figure that's a little too easy for the beginning. 10mm means we get the weathered 10mm as per my house rules. Knife and lead pipe, I'm sure we'll find some use for those too. And as for our special allocation, all 5s except for endurance. Interesting choice, but should be cool. I may consider buying the not strength bobblehead from Doc Usanagi to bump up that strength. Either that or spec into intense training depending on the circumstances, but we'll get back to that. So far as our tag skills go, definitely liking that science. Always love having extra points in that. Guns and unarmed, yeah, that sounds like Gary alright. Now I said depending on the circumstances a moment ago. We all know that Gary is hostile to anything and everything non-Gary, so I had to think of how to translate that into a fun run idea. Oh, don't worry, there's gonna be plenty of murder hobo action, but I still think that would be a little too basic, so let's make it a little more interesting. To reflect Gary's hostility, we're gonna get every single faction to vilified, whether it's a major faction like the NCR or Caesar's Legion, or as minor as the White Glove Society or the Strip. They will know and fear Gary. But at least we have one guy out there who's got our backs. Let's just hope he's fluent in Garyese. And as far as how Gary got here into the Mojave, we're gonna set the scene real quick. The Gary clones stormed Union Station because I guess they felt like it. Killed the mutants and ghouls with some casualties. Our Gary entered the train to investigate it and accidentally threw the electrical switch after some other Gary jury-rigged the priming reactor. 2 weeks later, he's here. And gotta say, Gary is wasting no time getting himself acquainted with the locals here at Goodsprings. I figure that not only can Gary get himself to vilified with Goodsprings, we've already got that with the Powder Gangers by killing Joe Cobb in Public Eye, but we can get ourselves a good bit of experience points taking out the Goodsprings settlers. Now, unfortunately, when we go kill Chet, we're not going to be able to get access to his inventory or what we sold him. Real disappointing, I know, because you can do that in Fallout 3. I guess that Chet and the other merchants here in the Mojave Wasteland have their own little magic pocket dimensions where we just can't get access to their bottle caps or their inventory to make further caps. Hey, speaking of Chet, we'll go ahead and bludgeon him, and we are donezo. And interestingly enough, as we make our way to Doc Mitchell's house, he's not hostile to us for some reason, even though we're vilified with Goodsprings by now, or at least we should be. Oh yeah, because we're playing as Gary, and Gary canonically has a Pip-Boy, we can use VATS mode in this run. Oh, I'm so excited. And yeah, I also felt bad for Doc Mitchell. The things I do to stay in character. And I figure now that we're all done here in Goodsprings, we're gonna go ahead and take a little shortcut, one I haven't shown in quite a while. You can get 2 stealth boys in Goodsprings, one from Joe Cobb when you kill or pickpocket him, and one from the safe inside of the Goodsprings school. This is always a great route to take if you want to get access to the Great Cons early. This is a staple for my Faction Warriors series. I always take this route because I want to get access to the cons early to get them off of Yes Man's checklist. And not to mention Jack is a great vendor, especially once you pass his speech check to get him to start selling stim packs. So go ahead and get Red Rock Canyon on our map, but we're going to come back a little bit later. We're hitting up the Bison Steve like usual, and par the course, it's pretty easy. And now the thing about playing as Gary is we only have a vault jumpsuit for protection, so even easy dungeons like the Bison Steve, we have to take some care in how we engage in combat. And sure, we're frail, but so too are these escaped convicts, the guys who are not cool enough to be official powder gangers. A little bit of 10mm and lead pipe does the job, easy peasy. And while we bludgeon this last escaped convict, we're gonna level up here. We'll go ahead and divvy the points between guns and melee, and it's time to talk to Deputy Beagle. And I guess Gary didn't like the way that Beagle looked at him, asking for help. Ah, well, he conveniently has his journal holotape that we can loot in the event that he dies, whether it's by our hand or by that of the convicts. That said, our business is not yet concluded here in Prim. Oh no. Prim may not be a faction, but we know how Gary is when he deals with non-Garys. And that results in a rather intense shootout with the denizens of Vicky and Vance Casino. Prim Slim goes down easy peasy. And I figure I'm showing the ending of the fight here because most of this fight is, as you're going to see here in a second, we do some damage, exit the premise. I actually thought they were going to follow us up, but they never do. Heal up, go back inside, and finish business. That's a real good thing we did business with Johnson Nash before we failed our rescue attempt of Deputy Beagle. Can't imagine how that happened. But yeah, this fight illustrates what I was talking about before, how we have to be super careful with how we engage in combat. Because if we just went in guns a-blazing, we would have died here. And I'll be straight with you, I thought that we were gonna die here a couple of times, but, well, maybe I'm underselling my own mediocre skill at this game. Well, that about takes care of Prim's problems. You don't need a sheriff if there's nobody in town. Although I am curious, there is one more character here. And I'm not sure if this is actually gonna work because, well, Eddie is damaged, so I always assumed he was a corpse, but we're gonna find out what happens if we hit him too many times with a lead pipe. Oh, he does explode. Oh no. Sorry, Eddie. Gary doesn't know who you are or how awesome you are. Cutting over to the road we take en route to Prim, we follow the merchants and the mercenaries as usual, and, you know, they've seen better days. Actually, the raiders and them mostly took each other out. The NCR trooper is fair game, and, well, I'm not going to bother too much with fighting the NCR at this point because our reputation will be reset upon entering the strip and concluding our business with Benny. But hey, it doesn't hurt to get in a little practice, you know what I mean? We'll go ahead and wobble our little Gary butt over there, drop us a nice healthy quick save, just in case, and inconspicuously go into our little stash where we'll heal ourselves up, all that good stuff, and then it's gonna be time to battle the NCR trooper. Good thing it's not the one from our Fallout 3 run, otherwise Gary would be toast. And despite our little sneak attack here, we take quite a bit of damage from that NCR trooper. Almost die, actually. It's a good thing we prepped up before that fight. Now, we're not going to take the quest from Manny, but hey, that's not going to stop us from paying the ghouls of Repconn a little visit, if you will. And what better way to say hello to Jason Bright and his group of zealots than bludgeoning their, friend over the head. It's not like they care anyway. You're going to see that here in a second, actually. Like, once we kill Chris Haverson, go into sneak, and then back off, they suddenly not hostile anymore. I just picture the ghouls, they're like, oh, well, it's that stupid human who thinks he's a ghoul. We're all done here anyway, so we don't need that guy anymore. And while we are massacring the Bright followers, let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to be doing business ourselves, because, you know, we got to get all factions devilified. But we are still going to need a merchant and a doctor, and my solution is this. Right here in Novak, these two NPCs are not linked to the Novak faction. There's Ada Strauss, who can heal us up and even sell us a chem or two on occasion. And then there's Old Lady Gibson, just north of Novak. Again, she's not tied to the Novak faction, so we, by our rules, don't have to take her out. Gibson's repair isn't one of the better ones, but at the same time, it's better than nothing. And as far as Ada Strauss goes, if we clean out her inventory, we'll just have to wait a few in-game days for it to replenish. And naturally, that means we can take advantage of any random traveling merchants. A perfect example being the ones who travel from the bridge up to Novak in that scripted encounter with the Legionaries. By our rules, as long as they're not tied to a faction, we don't have to kill them. But the Bright Followers are a faction in all but name, and I want the experience points and the loot. And hey, it's what Gary would do, so we're doing it too. But there is another reason why I wanted to stop here at Repconn. Here at Repconn, towards the entrance when you go up the stairs behind the locked door, there's another locked door to the left, which you can open, and there's a safe inside that always contains 2 stealth boys. The problem is, our lockpick is currently 20. To open easy locks or higher, you need 25 lockpick or higher. Go figure. And we used our locksmith readers up by this point. But honestly, that's not too big of a deal. Next time we level up, we'll just go ahead and pop in 5 points to lockpick. Beyond this dungeon, I don't see us putting lockpick to use at all for the rest of the run. If I do, well, that'll be nice, I guess, but it's not going to be a big focus. Most lock safes also come accompanied by a terminal, and our science skill will always be higher. But yeah, the Bright Followers, not much to write home about. They were pretty easy to kill, all things considered. That single NCR trooper gave us more trouble than this entire pack of goons. And hey, speaking of goons, it's George! Hey boy, haven't seen this guy in a while, huh? Now, don't mistake my leaving him alive as mercy. Oh no, see, we're being trailed by an NCR trooper right now, and I always love when that happens. We get to have some real fun here with the Boomers and Nellis artillery strike. And gotta say, I feel like this is one of our better runs through this little barrage here. Now watch real closely, you're gonna see that NCR trooper catapult over there. Yeah, they got her. Sweet deal. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think Gary would take too kindly to being shot at with a bunch of missiles. So the Boomers, led by Pearl, doing what she does, just invites Gary in. You know, he's got that vault suit. It's a bit dirtied up from his time in the Wasteland. Surely he's just, surely he's not quite the same as the other savages, right? Well, Pearl, it's all well and good to want to let the outside world in just a little bit, but old Gary here just might be even more of a xenophobe than you guys are. Also, very brave of this venerable lady to go fisticuffs with this maniac wielding a 10mm pistol. I'll give her credit, she's got guts. Well, she did. Okay, so we're gonna go swing by the front door here, let them know about our little exchange, bring them inside, and we're gonna start bludgeoning them down one by one. Now, the great thing about killing the Boomers, aside from just bludgeoning a bunch of xenophobes, because, that's always fun, is the fact that they drop some really awesome gear, and many of them also carry lead pipes, so we can keep our lead pipe in good condition. We won't have to go to Old Lady Gibson to repair it along with everything else. Now, in order for us to cut the Boomers from anything to do with Hoover Dam, we have to go after their other leader, Loyal. You gotta love it, Gary's just doing what he does, and all while this is going down, the NCR House and Caesar, they all want the Boomers on their side, and there's just this vault dweller from somewhere none of them have ever heard of, except for maybe Mr. House. Just strolls on in and bludgeons 2 senior citizens, and that's the end of the Boomers. Well, not yet. We gotta go ahead and take out their doctor as well. Don't want these Boomers getting themselves better. You'd think for a medic that guy would have better loot. Well, maybe the first aid box will have something handy in it. Okay, the patients have been bludgeoned. Make our way to the first aid box. Just open that up. Dirty water, empty syringe, and rebound. Well, the rebound's alright, I guess. Not my first idea for a restorative healing item, but hey, the Boomers are the experts, not me. Alright, with their infirmary compromised, it's time to go take out Loyal and end the Boomers once and for all. I gotta say, for an old codger, he sure can take a lead pipe to the face pretty well. He may be durable, but not enough. Out goes Loyal, and the Boomers are Dunyan rings. And I can always come back and kill strays if I want to take their missile launchers, grenade launchers, or what have you for some sweet, sweet baba caps. And it's like I said before, don't think that I spared Georgie Boy out of mercy. That's just not the way Gary does things. So, before we continue on with our main quest, if you want to call it that, we're going to go ahead and fast travel back to the field shacks and pay our pal a visit. The thing about old Georgie Boy is that he's an essential character in our routing for Fallout New Vegas faction warriors because Georgie Boy has 427 bottle caps, and that'll help us with clearing the credit check. I mean, we're probably not going to do that this run because I have another idea for that. But yeah, I always kill Georgia Boy in Faction Warriors because it's a little over a fifth of what you need to pass the credit check. Although in the next New Vegas season, we're going to try some different routing as per the suggestions I've gotten from you guys. Well, that was fun, so let's go ahead and get another faction to vilified, shall we? Circling back to the good old Boulder City. The NCR and the Great Khans in their little standoff. If only there was somebody to just break up the tension. Well, Gary can get this soldier's attention. Maybe he knows the answers to what's going on around here. Well, Gary, that wasn't very nice of you, and I guess Private Kowalski understood Gary ease with that response and that hostility. Well, time to go ahead and take him down. Now, unlike that NCR trooper who we just happened to stumble across during the way to Novak, Private Kowalski here is no trouble whatsoever. Man, we are really getting mileage out of this lead pipe, aren't we? Next up, we'll head on over to the entrance to Boulder City's ruins, and we'll go ahead and take out Lieutenant Monroe. Finally have some ammunition for our Scoped 44 Magnum. And our damage is not too bad. Really, I just like having the option to zoom in. This will for sure come in handy when we get to Hoover Dam, so we can, maybe not snipe, but have a ranged advantage, at least on some of the earlier Kenturians and veteran legionaries. Now, my original plan was to lure the NCR troopers out, and then switch to the lead pipe and then start swinging. But again, they're not coming out, same thing with Prim, so we're gonna head on in and, you know, spice things up a little bit. And by the time we head back to the action, well, no surprise, we are hostile to the NCR troopers. I'm sure the Great Khans feel a great sense of relief right now, but that's just the kind of false security Gary instills in people. Hey, you guys have been to Vault 108. You saw those Wastelanders inside of there. No doubt the Garys lure Wastelanders inside and experiment on them, I think. I know one of those Wastelanders was on the little surgical table or whatever. With the Khans and the NCR troopers disposed of, and before we go to Jessup, gotta go ahead and take care of the hostages. Don't want to leave them out, they are important. And once we handle the hostage situation, it's time to go inside and pay our friend Jessup a little visit. So we've killed the NCR troopers, all of them. We have killed Jessup's allies outside. And it's just kind of funny to me that he thinks that he can take us on in spite of all of that. Well, okay. And I'm sure this is going to shock you a great deal, but taking into consideration what I just said, with all that context in mind, Jessup and his little crony here aren't really much to write home about. Although I will give the Great Khan credit, he didn't just sheath his weapon like he did when we were playing as the Regulator. Oh, and now that our lockpick is 25, let's go ahead and swing back to Repconn and pick up those sweet, sweet stealth boys. And turns out I did leave a couple of feral ghouls hanging around the place. I always thought they disappeared if you dealt with the Bright Brotherhood one way or another, but maybe I'm misremembering. Oh well, we've got our stealth boys, and we never have to come back to this place again. Thank goodness. And you know what, we're gonna go ahead and have some more fun with the Great Khans. Now, we're vilified with them already, but I want to take a crack at Red Rock. Now, speaking of Red Rock, this is pretty funny right here. We jump Carl and we bludgeon the crap out of him. And turns out the Great Khans outside really don't seem to care. And we can loot his Legion Explorer armor. That might come in handy a little bit later. And all 5 of his Legion Denarius. Okay, before we start, we'll go and swap to our hollow point to deal more damage. And there's Regis, and one headshot, it's done. We aggro a few Great Khans, and there's Papa Khan. Few shots take him out as well, that's awesome. But then his goons end up breaking into our close quarters, and, well, we die. I laugh out even in death, Gary manages to be a jerk one more time by just teabagging Carl. Well, that didn't go so well, so let's try again. I think the name of the game here is that we need to be better at closing doors, whip out our little lead pipe, and then start bludgeoning them because they won't be able to defend. Well, that was my logic anyway. Because turns out that attempt went way worse than last time. Like, if we were playing as a standard courier, this would be a piece of cake, but as Gary, well, that vault jumpsuit's only going to do so much. Now, I'm thinking that the play here, rather than locking ourselves in Carl's room, let's try going outside. You know, fresh air is good for you, all that good stuff. Looking back, I really should have used my stealth boys and engaged in some silent melee kills. I'm really stingy with stealth boys. And turns out that frugalness bit me in the butt yet again, because all the Great Khans are outside here, and I don't know if this was a better or worse idea, but it's pretty clear to me that we can't kill these guys, not right now anyway. We gotta be stronger before we take these guys on. You know, for good measure. Oh, that was a bust. But hey, I still had fun. So I don't think Gara's gonna be messing with the Great Khans. However, we do have more factions to clean up here, and next up is going to be the Followers of the Apocalypse here inside of Freeside. Now we can get a sweet little triple triad deal out of this. There are, of course, Followers Doctors here. Followers Doctors guards, that Ghoul Beatrix, I think. Arcade Ganon's here as well. There are Gamblers, and they count for Strip Faction, which is going to be pretty sweet. And the guys that the King sends you to, well, they count as Freeside residents, so we're going to be scoring us quite a bit of, maybe not vilified, but definitely working our way towards it. And as you can see, it's like night and day dealing with the Great Khans. The Followers of the Apocalypse want to spread knowledge and peace throughout the Wasteland. Well, maybe they should subscribe to the Brotherhood of Nod's theory of peace through power. Anybody else here play Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun? I used to love that game. But yeah, what's really funny about all this is that while we're cleaning up this area of Freeside, Arcade Gannon has not turned hostile to us yet, and like, isn't he supposed to? Isn't he tied with the followers of the Apocalypse faction? Oh well, whatever, that'll just make him easier to kill once we clean up everything else here. And I figure while we are here in Freeside, the followers should be vilified by the time we're done here. The Strip, well, if we don't get them to vilify, there's plenty of gamblers we can take out inside of the Strip, you know, do that at our own risk, because there'll be NCR MPs and Securitrons on our butts. Sounds like good times. And, well, Arcade said something that really, ticked off Gary, so bye-bye, Arcade. You know, I didn't set out to kill the companions for Gary's little run here, but they're in the way. Any companions who are in the way are not being spared Gary's wrath. Whatever you may think of me and how I'm playing as Gary, I promise I'm an alright person in real life. But I think Mormon Fort is cleaned, but we're not quite done in Freeside yet. They're not technically a faction on the list, but, I mean, what's Freeside without the Kings? We're gonna take them out too. Oh my god, I missed VATS mode so much. Now, that said, the Kings aren't pushovers by any means. They all have 10mm pistols and submachine guns. Pacer has a bit more health, I think. Being the named character, I just kind of assume that. But to Pace's credit, he is able to lay the beat down on us. Like, holy mackerel. I legit cannot believe we survived that. 1 health, baby, that's all you need. Pacer did put up a great fight, but not good enough for him, unfortunately. And although this place is pretty risky for us to take on, it's very much worth it, because taking out the Kings here, our 10mm ammo is going to be stocked up for the rest of the run. I don't see us having to buy ammunition from random merchants. Now, in hardcore mode, ammunition does take up weight. You know, I'm sure that's a shocking concept. But yeah, I say that because right now we have well over 400, about a little over 450 actually. That does add up quite a bit. And hey, speaking of the King, look who's here. Not just the King, but our buddy Rex, and unfortunately, I gotta put him down. He is hostile to us. I'm going to hell for this run. We take out one of the King's goons, no problem with the lead pipe, and we lay the beat down on the King, but his backpedaling game is pretty strong. That's not the way I played my Hunter in World of Warcraft, but hey, to each his own. But yeah, the King really did surprise me in this fight. I thought we were going to take him out real fast, but he was just out of our range, and we could have taken him out with our own 10mm, and well, he's dead now. But that was interesting. I feel like I've been a bit too reliant on the lead pipe. I should have been more reliant on it back at Red Rock. Alright, sweet deal. The Kings have been cleaned out, and I'm gonna go clean out the Van Graffs real quick. I showed that in the last run, so not gonna show it here. Plus, they're not a listed faction, so they're kind of irrelevant to our objective. In the meantime, do enjoy a headshot of our boy Dixon, our co-star of Faction Warriors. Ah, sweet, sweet VATS. Gonna be taking advantage of that anytime I play as a character who canonically has a Pip-Boy. And honestly, we're gonna need VATS mode for what's to come next. Now, one of my viewers shared an awesome story about how he shot down the Securitrons to gain access to the Strip. Now, funny enough, even casually, I've never done that. And I mean, what better way to try out something new this awesome than here in our Gary run? Now, I won't be doing the whole, one-shot stealth kill because, well, I've already started the fight. But that does sound like a fun way to get inside of the Strip. How much you want to bet that once we get inside that nothing happens to us? Okay, second try. Sneak attack crit, go! Yeah, totally will be sneak attacking. And I'm looking at this like, yeah, I should have been using my stealth boys, but yeah, just... I tell you, man, I hate... It's like, I collect stealth boys. I hate using them, because I'm like, what if I never get any other ones? What if I waste it? Yada, yada. Like, back in the Regulator run, where I had to use my stealth boy to get that deathclaw off my tail. I was like, man, I feel like that was wasted, even though we used that to kill Melissa and the other Great Khans. I was like, man, no, felt like I could have saved that for something better. That's a personal flaw of mine as a New Vegas player. I love my stealth boys way too much. And I fully recognize that inhibits my skill as a player. But hey, I never claimed to be, yo, what, you want those hands, little boy? Okay, wasn't expecting that. The Securitron wants to go fisticuffs? They don't have melee weapons, do they? Well, much good that did you there, pal. Well, they are running on outdated OSs. I guess that was a nice little, show don't tell of that. And gotta say, we found ourselves a nice little spot to take cover. It's good to know that this little bench protects us from missiles. Like, the missiles just won't go through the openings. Explosives are considerate like that. Little known fact. And hey, look at that. That's the final securitron gatekeeper down. I'm in the mood for some beef, so we're going to go beyond to acquire it. Well, after we get our boo-boos kissed here by Dr. Ada Strow. The fact that Gary tolerates this doctor is a sign that Gary is of sound mind and a good judge of character. And, well, the White Gloves are gonna find out what happens when they try to disarm Gary at the entrance. Who is he to listen to rules, anyway? But yeah, I'm sure you can imagine that the White Gloves are super easy to take out with their dress canes, so we can just kite them with our 10mm, or go overkill with the 44 Magnum if we really want to. It's just wild to me, like, the Great Khans back at Red Rock were like raid boss level tier difficulty, and everything else so far hasn't been too bad. I thought that the Kings were worthy fighters. The Securitron Gatekeepers, of course, were tough for us to get by, you know, because we have a Vault jumpsuit. Ooh, while we're here, we can kill Het Gunderson and his bodyguard. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And I gotta say, through constant use of our 10mm here, engaging in some real solid weight loss. Gunderson's down, but we do have to dispose of his inept guard, which is, you know, easy. Gotta say, though, Het Gunderson had the right idea of bringing a firearm in here. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and take care of our man Mortimer. No check-ins for him. And we'll go ahead and top things off here at the White Glove Society by dome-shotting Lady Marjorie, making our way up. The White Gloves are clean. And because the chairmen are not an official faction on the Pip-Boy, we can go ahead and make some actual progress in this story. Contrary to what I've been showing you on screen, I did collect some manner of evidence, just enough for us to be able to get alone with Benny. Why is Gary after Benny anyway? Well, as a famous gaming studio likes to say, you wouldn't understand. But that's okay, I don't understand either. Okay, we're gonna skip over some Yes Man dialogue because I do want to get the little quest for the Omertas. And then I was like, wait, hold on a minute. All I gotta do is talk about them, and then I can just ignore them, because the Omertas, like the chairman, are not a faction listed on the Pip-Boy, so I don't have to interact with them at all. Sweet! And, well, what do you say we go pay Mr. House a visit, see what this little platinum chip thing does? Well, apparently it's the key to his computer. And Gary does such an awesome job evading Securitrons that he doesn't take any damage during the little gauntlet run. The Securitron gatekeepers prepped him. Oh, we get to use our knife, finally. About time. Now, here's an interesting little predicament and parallel to our Gary 23. Rest in peace, sweet innocent soul. Gary 23 was captured by the Brotherhood outcasts because they wanted his Pip-Boy back in the capital Wasteland. The Mojave chapter Brotherhood has still captured Gary because McNamara thought that he could get Gary to do his bidding. Well, the Ranger is dead. I did end up taking a point in intense training because, well, Dr. Usanagi's not really here anymore, so I can't buy the implant. Anyway, we pickpocket the Elder, the head paladin, kill Scribe Taggart like we usually do, set off that sweet self-destruct sequence. And it's time to get revenge for our brother, Gary 23. I mean, I guess by proxy, because the Outcasts are a little ways east, but, you know, this is the next best thing. The Brotherhood Outcasts are a lot more like the ones here in the Mojave, so that works. And, speaking of self-destruct, well, I know that Yes Man is not a listed faction because he's our whipping boy, but that doesn't stop us from enraging him by destroying the Securitrons. Gee, it's almost like Gary doesn't care about the Mojave Wasteland at all. But hey, Yes Man, what are your thoughts on what Gary just did? Can you tell us?
I can't get over how brave you were to destroy all those Securitrons at the fort. You know, it's just gonna make everything so much more, challenging. Yeah, challenging.
Yes Man wishes that Skynet theory was true now. And obviously we're gonna skip over the whole NCR Protect President Kimball thing on the account that we can't do it. So hey, what do you say we go storm El Dorado substation? That's always easy. Oh gee, thanks guys. Just gonna walk on in here, put in that sweet, sweet... What? Wow, that is the first time I've ever died at Dorado substation. Exploring new frontiers here in the Gary run. Never thought I'd say this, but second try, and we're getting gunned down quite a bit. This time we don't stagger, get outside, and yeah, we're good. Oh, and yeah, you'll see the strip is hated. Don't worry, before we talk to Yes Man, I dome shot a hooker outside the Gamor with our scoped 44 Magnum. That got us to vilified. Alright, here at Hoover Dam, first things first, as usual, we're gonna go ahead and square down with the cons, as, well, we couldn't kill them at Red Rock Canyon, so we're gonna go ahead and kill these ones here. Get some revenge, you know what I mean? It is kind of funny, though, because I did go back and I killed Carl, and the Great Khans just didn't care, despite the fact that we're vilified with them. If Papa Khan sent those Great Khans to help the Legion, the NCR would be in a lot of trouble. Alrighty, the Great Khans are a case of Dunyan Ring, so let's go ahead and start out combat with the first wave of Kenturians. And if this is your first video, just know that I call the Centurions Kenturians the way that one calls Caesar Caesar. That's how the Legionaries pronounce it. That's just a habit I picked up when I played the game. And wow, that went way better than it had any right to. I mean, granted, that was mostly the securitron doing the work, but hey, our Magnum does okay damage against these guys. Prime Legionary, you ain't nothing, son. Get out of here. I called them a Veteran Legionary earlier. I don't know why I did that. I mix them up sometimes, I guess. Oh, well, you know what they say when you're hunting the Legion. If it's red, it's dead. Actually, I don't know if that is a saying. I just went off script for that one. Wow, yeah, the first wave of Legionaries, man, they really went down. This isn't gonna last, though, because we know the ones on the other side are much tougher. And we won't have the benefit of the Boomer's airstrike this time, so we'll enjoy this dominance while it lasts. Hey, speaking of dominance, look who's up next. Okay, we died at Dorado substation, but if we get killed by these two heavy troopers, I'm just gonna call the run here and say that it's impossible for Gary to conquer the Mojave Wasteland. And hey, if nothing else, it gives us another use of our knife, like I'd waste a lead pipe on these guys. Ah, good. We didn't get killed by those guys. This run's dignity, and Gary's dignity, remains intact. Boy, this is awfully familiar. You guys ever get the sensation of deja vu? Oh, it's probably nothing. And hey, we're gonna go and bludgeon the NCR as we make our way to the detonator for the generator. No more Hoover Dam, that sounds like a good time. All that time, energy, and blood wasted by the NCR and the Legion, well, that's all going bye-bye. NCR Rangers, yeah, all that training just to go down to some guy in a vault jumpsuit with a lead pipe. Hey, an explosion. Ah, that's awfully familiar. You guys ever get that? Frick it. Now, my intention here was to equip the Legion Explorer armor so that we could bypass the encounter. That is allowed because I wouldn't be fighting in it. But turns out my little plan to try and cheese the Legion here didn't quite work out. Yeah, that's just what the Mojave needs. Gary inducted into the Legion. Okay, so we're gonna head up on here, help out the Securitrons. Might as well, right? So we'll go ahead and get the Legion Explorer armor off, get our awesome Vault 108 jumpsuit back on. Still nice and grimy, just like it's been all these years. And I gotta say, too, that despite the fact we had no air support on the account that we killed it, we're doing pretty good against these guys. It's funny, too, because, like, Vance got killed by the Kenturians, even though the Boomers helped him out. But Gary, man, he don't need no Boomers and Nellis. And just to show that we got all the factions vilified, they're right on the pit boy here. You know, I had to go back and kill the Boomers like 3 times because they reset to hated for some reason. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go kill a couple more. Then they were vilified, then it reset to hated, so I did it again. 3rd time's the charm, I suppose. Alright, so let's go ahead and get business donezo here. We're gonna go ahead and fight Legate Lanius. It's exactly why I took intense training so we could get Super Slam. You saw us use that against Ranger Dobson earlier. And as is standard for any character who has access to melee and high enough strength to wield Super Slam as a perk, Legate Lanius, along with a little bit of Turbo Gary edition, well, he ain't no thing now, is he? And if you're wondering about intense training, well, just think of it this way. Starting in our next run, we're going to be in base Fallout 3, and we will be getting bobbleheads there. That's part of our requirements to get our tag skill bobbleheads as per the votes. And I'll be grabbing stuff like the strength bobblehead as well, so I look at the intense training perk kind of like a bobblehead. But repeatable. I rarely ever use that perk, though. And if you're not a fan of the Super Slam strategy, I can tell you this straight away, is that our next character in Fallout New Vegas doesn't have melee at all, so that'll be fun. But before we can talk about the next runs, we still have to deal with General Oliver. Obviously, we don't have the speech check to talk him down, not that we would. You know, speaking of speech check, I haven't once used that on Lanius outside of Faction Warriors. Well, what do you say we go slap Oliver silly? And it's kind of funny because, in context, the Veteran Rangers and Oliver probably could take those securitrons. But the securitrons don't appear to take any damage ever. I mean, feel free to correct me on that. I've never seen any of those securitrons get destroyed. Maybe that's something we should check out someday. But yeah, Oliver, easy as usual. Although I will say we did have to be a bit careful there, invest in our turbo wisely, because, well, again, Vault Jumpsuit Anti-Material Rifle, they kind of mix like oil and water. With General Oliver and Legate Lanius both dead, the Mojave Wasteland is now Gary's to do whatever he wants with. Which is probably nothing, because Gary's just like, Gary? Eh, Gary. And then just go back home to Vault 108. I mean, it has been 4 years since he's seen his brothers. I'm sure he'd like to. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that run. Voter's choice, hope I did you proud. While I'll keep our next Fallout New Vegas character a secret beyond not having melee, next up, in Fallout 3, which is where we're going next, is Fallout 3 as Butch Deloria. Looking forward to it, and I'll see you guys there. Later.